Long before the night Jesus was born, the world had learned how to endure. Empires rose and fell, promises were made and broken. Families carried stories of hope that stretched so far back they no longer remembered when the waiting had begun. The poor learned how to survive quietly. The powerful learned how to rule loudly. And God, who had spoken through prophets and fire and wind, seemed, for a long time, to be silent. But silence is not absence. When the time came, God did not arrive suddenly. He did not interrupt the world with force or spectacle. He entered it the way life itself often does, through obedience, vulnerability, and trust. A decree went out from Caesar Augustus, and it moved people like pieces on a board. Joseph was required to travel to Bethlehem, the city of his ancestors. He went because he must. Mary went with him because she trusted him, and because she carried within her the promise God had spoken. I'm going to read you that whole paragraph. A decree went out from Caesar Augustus, and it moved people like pieces on a board. Joseph was required to travel to Bethlehem, the city of his ancestors. He went because he must. Mary went with him because she trusted him, and because she carried within her the promise God had spoken. She was young. She was very near the end of her pregnancy. Her body knew what was coming, even if her mind could not fully comprehend it. Every step toward Bethlehem was heavy with uncertainty. The road was crowded. The nights were cold. Joseph watched her closely, guarding her as best he could, knowing that everything depended on God now. When they arrived, the city was full. Doors closed gently but firmly. There was no room, no prepared place, nor warm corner where a woman could safely give birth. And so they went where no one else was looking, into a shelter meant for animals, a space carved out of necessity, not comfort. This was not failure. This was the place God had chosen. In the quiet of that night, Mary's labor began. There were no midwives, no soft linens, no whispered encouragement from women who had walked this road before her. There was only Joseph's steady presence, the breathing of animals, the roughness of straw beneath her hands. And then, life. Mary gave birth to her son. She took him into her own arms. She wrapped him in cloths with care born of instinct and love. She laid him in a manger, not because it was symbolic, but because it was what they had. Do that sentence again. She laid him in a manger, not because it was symbolic, but because it was what they had. The Word through whom all things were made did not arrive speaking. He arrived needing to be held. He cried. He breathed. He depended entirely on the woman who had said yes when she did not know what it would cost her. God did not grasp power. He surrendered to love. Nearby, shepherds kept watch. They were accustomed to darkness, to danger, to long nights where nothing happened and yet everything mattered. They lived on the edges of society, trusted with animals, but rarely with honor. And it was to them that heaven opened, the night around them filled with light, not harsh, not frightening, but alive. An angel spoke the word. An angel spoke the words the world had needed to hear for centuries. Do not be afraid. Good news, great joy for all people. The sign would not be thunder or flame. The sign would be a baby, wrapped in cloths, lying in a manger. The shepherds did not debate. They did not hesitate. They went quickly, their feet carrying them toward something they could not yet name. And when they found the child, just as they had been told, something in them changed. They became witnesses, not to power, but to presence. They told what they had seen, and Mary, hearing their words, did not speak much. She held everything in her heart, already learning what it would mean to love a God who had chosen to come this way. Far from Bethlehem, others were watching the sky. Wise men, students of the heavens, noticed a star that did not behave as stars do. It moved with intention. It called to them, and though they did not yet know the God of Israel, they recognized a summons when they saw one. They traveled far. They asked questions. They arrived first at a palace, because where else would a king be born? But power was uneasy there. Fear lived behind stone walls. Violence lurked beneath polite questions. And so the star led them onward to humility. When they reached the child, they knelt. They offered gifts that spoke more than they understood: gold for a king, frankincense for God, myrrh for a sacrifice not yet imagined. And then they left by another road, already changed by what they had seen. That night did not end the world's suffering. Rome still ruled, poverty still pressed, danger still waited in the shadows. Soon there would be flight, exile, fear. The child would grow into a man who would be misunderstood, opposed, and ultimately crucified. But something irreversible had happened. God had chosen closeness, not from above, but from within, not by force, but by love, not to escape suffering, but to enter it. The manger was not an ending. It was a beginning, a promise that God does not save from a distance, that He does not wait for us to be ready, worthy, or strong, that He comes into the places where there is no room, no certainty, no visible hope. This is the night God came close. And because of that night, no darkness is ever empty, no suffering is unseen, no waiting is wasted. God is with us, and He always will be.